So you're probably thinking about coming to the University of Derby. Here we are stood outside one of three buildings on the campus. This is Markeaton Street, where you'll be spending the majority of your time as a student. And you're probably thinking this is going to be an enlightening and very valuable experience to you as a student, which is what it's supposed to be. Hello, you've made it. Welcome to Derby University. This is where your career as a filmmaker begins, and you find out who you are as an individual. Let me walk you through some of the key components of Derby University. As a university student, Tom Craig will be your head of department, and that's very, very important. Now, the thing with Tom Craig is you're probably expecting that because he's the head of a department, the man has his hands tied. He is extremely busy, constantly doing paperwork, marking, and revising pieces of work as best he can. That's funny because that isn't what he does. In fact, he does the exact opposite of that. He is very comfortable lounging around on his arse cheeks, not really doing anything of worth whatsoever. And that's the problem, because there's a distinct lack of commitment from this man who occasionally walks into our lessons looking like Gregor Simpson and doesn't really do anything of worth whatsoever. And on top of that, I'll say it, man, I haven't been paid for Sinai House, Tom. Get that money over to me right away, you bastard. Perhaps you've done a dissertation, a valuable piece of work that decides your end grade. Well, don't worry, because Tom Craig's here to save you with a 1.5 minute piece of pathetic online feedback talking about how many tutorials you've missed. Do you want that? Good, because neither do I. Put simply, Tom Craig is a short, balding menace with an attitude to boot. He reaps his 50 to 60k salary, and despite all day sitting in his hotel room yakking his beanstalk to whatever stupid Italian movie he's watching, he does nothing, and my lord, he's feckless. The second lecturer I think it is important to discuss for Derby University is Bazza or Barry Squires, who has consistently won Lecturer of the Year in this vicinity for a number of reasons, although his competition, as we can see, is pretty much on the floor at this point. Whether it be his charisma, his personality, his knowledge of his subjects, he is charming, witty, and relatively sexy, depending on your taste and style. Although I would say Barry is a fantastic lecturer, and he certainly is, I mean, from the evidence is clear, and obviously his competition, I will bring up again, are not exactly rivals. But the one flaw maybe that you could point out about Barry is God, he can whine. Whether it be his equipment, people not showing up, you know, he loves a good whine. Barry Squires alone is a fantastic and significant reason to come to this university. Many would argue the only reason to come to this university. I mean, obviously, again, compared to his peers, whatever they are. So yes, come here, see Barry in all his wonder. One of the best parts of Derby University is its studios. We have one over here and we have one over here. It is also the hidey hole of a certain equipment resource member who we will be going into more detail later. So let's go in. Welcome to one of the studios here at Derby University. As you can see, the university have advertised their studios as state-of-the-art, which as you, the viewer, you can see just how state-of-the-art this is, such as the paper hung up amongst the soundproof walls, the hideous chairs, the table and chairs randomly there, and the semen-stained curtains. One of the added benefits of the studios at Derby University, amongst the state-of-the-art appearances, are the fact that they are so unbelievably simple to look at. Now, all you need to do as a student is contact a woman, and she will let you know within around 2.5 months in advance of your actual booking when you can use these rooms. And that's important because especially if you have a project where the due date is very close and you really need the studio, tough luck because you're not getting it. Here we are stood outside MS 123E, the room of Alex Wainwright, the Hermit, here at Derby University. He's known as the Hermit due to his ability to go into his hidey hole now and again and only come out at the sight of some of the university's terrible equipment. Now, perhaps you're a film student on an open day and you've heard that Alex Wainwright is a valuable member of staff and you want to talk to him. Now, around the university, he is known as Alex Wainwright. However, he is also known as the horny-handed son of the soil. I guess an important figure to discuss at the vicinity of Derby University is one of the many unique tutors here called Russell Cherrington. Now, Russell Cherrington has made a film. He loves films, but unfortunately he doesn't quite have the intelligence, the experience, or the normality to make anything other than atrocities. Whether it be his terrible scheduling, his complete lack of anything where he has to use his brain, or maybe his downright terrible appearance with his jowls. Russ is not the tutor for you, or me. Do you like terrible gradings? I don't. And that's exactly why you should come to the University of Derby. Because here with Susan Brand, the noodle-haired amphibian that patrols the streets and patrols the corridors of this university, not only will you be graded at anywhere between 40 and a referral, but you'll also have your entire time taken up by her useless, life-sucking and disastrous editing lessons. Here we are, stood outside the Media Loan Hub now. Unfortunately, due to the close vicinity of the Media Loan Hub, I have to keep my voice down to avoid any old ute walking out and telling me off. But don't worry, because there are valuable criticisms to be had here, many of which stem from the people who run it, and the equipment available. Now, the equipment available is very impressive, it's very commendable. However, do you want some of the equipment? Tough luck, you won't be getting any. Do you want to hand it back by a certain date? Tough luck, because that's not happening. Plus, you'll be fined for everything you do. Sad, lonely, and most of all, damaging to your reputation. That's the Media Loan Hub. On your way to Derby University, or perhaps on an open day, you will have seen this ute, Omar. Now, what the uni like to do is say that Omar is one of their success stories, which is not true. The uni pioneer the fact that they sort of, made Omar into this successful filmmaker, and he's now on successful jobs such as sex education. This is not true. Omar is his own success story with his own career. They had no involvement in making that ute a filmmaker. And just to see the fact how they milk Omar as a student. He is on the posters, he is on the videos, everywhere they can put Omar as a success story, they will put him there, because he's the one, pretty much the one exception of a guy making it big from this university, but not by the university, by himself. Here is an example of exactly what I am talking about. Is this necessary? Is this necessary? Here I am stood next to a gigantic picture of Omar. This is what I mean by parading the filmmaker around, pretending like they've achieved something. What is this? What is this? How many of these do we need? How many times do I walk down this and see Omar? I know. He was a student here. I know. Get it out my sight. Are you on set for your final film? Indeed, a very stressful, tormenting time for anyone. Well, I have just what you're wanting. Do you want sort of a, how do I put it, a middle-aged, sort of pathetic loser to come in, open the door and disrupt your filming time? That is what he does. And not only that, do it consecutively over the period of about 15 minutes, whilst then bringing his class in, moving your equipment around, and then blaming me. Yep. That's you, pal. You know who you are. You know who this is. Fuck you. Are you worried about the financial element of the film industry? Perhaps you're not really from a well-off family, or you yourself don't really have a lot of money. Well, don't worry, because not only will you be expected to pay for everything as a uni student at a ridiculously high price, you also have to fund your own films with your own money, with no help from anyone else. And that means that you'll probably waste half your money on a film which is terrible, will never be screened anywhere, you'll hate it, and then on top of that, for the next 3 weeks, you have to live on Cocoa Pops and a loaf of bread. Free actors in the university are generally very discouraged. They often force you to pay actors when you, of course, given your financial situation and given the amount of money you do have to spend at university, can simply not be done in any efficient way, and you are living on pennies. At the start of university, you'll find lectures pretty useful and pretty important. There's a pretty set schedule. You'll be probably getting about 3 to 4 lectures a week, and that's jolly good. Now, unfortunately, in some of these lectures, the fault isn't really the amount of the lectures, it's more the quality and topic of what is being discussed. Now, obviously, we've had many, many silly lectures in our time, but I suppose some of the more golden examples would be video games. I'm sure that by signing up to a film course, you want to know about Fallout 4's depiction of women. And on top of that, you also don't want to be discussing acting by Russell Charrington, which was an actual lesson where you will spend most of your time running around the floor and pretending to be a tree. But I'm sure if you want to know about Fallout 4's depiction of women and you want to run around the studios pretending to be a tree and sitting on your ass, then you go ahead and join film production. In Year 3, there are also problems there as well. Now, whether it be the quantity of lectures, of which there are none from any of them, and when there are lectures, of course, what I do want to hear at 9 a.m, is my own head of film's screaming child burbling down the microphone and causing a fucking earthquake in my living room. Welcome to our film classroom. It's terrible, isn't it? This is where me and my other film colleagues sit on a weekly basis to discuss whatever hideous lecture is in store. Now, of course, you're probably wondering, how am I going to communicate with my class? Well, you probably won't, and you probably won't want to. But the good news is, they're unique. Each and every one of them is unique in their own way, whether it be the films they make, their appearances, their voices, their hobbies. It can range from anything to American football all the way to food fanatics. There will be distinctive differences between classmates. I mean, there are some which are more practical orientated, and some are, far more theory orientated. Now, from my experience, people who are more theory orientated tend to be a bit more different. Practical people tend to be a bit more, a bit more hands-on, a bit more industry orientated, and that's fine. There is equally terrible on both sides. But don't forget, you'll hate them. You probably think you've joined a film practical course, and that is great because that is what it says on paper and on the University of Derby's website as well, and it has done for many, many years. Now, the problem with that is this is not a practical course. Well, it is actually a practical course, but the problem is that since I've been at uni, of 30 students, 8 have made films. The others have gone the script writing direction, which is just another way of saying they haven't lost their virginity yet. In all seriousness, though, this is a real problem. As practical filmmakers, you need collaboration. You need people to come together and make films. Having one side of the class being practically orientated and the vast majority being theory orientated does create actual problems, and this is actually a continued problem from many years of this university. They don't seem to address it, they don't seem to want to address it, they're convinced that their way works, and trust me, with one look at this class, we can clearly see that it doesn't work. It is terrible. These people are terrible, and the people who they're tutored by, they're terrible as well. So let's get that sorted. It's often common knowledge in this university that a certain lecturer we've already talked about, I don't feel I need to name drop, Russell, has been talked about for many, many years now regarding his lack of teaching standard, his lack of knowledge, his lack of anything, really. And despite this, this man is still employed. He is still here. He is still roaming the streets like some sort of deluded carnivore. And yet people seem to not really clock that this is a problem. This man does not deserve to be employed. And for 3 or 4 years now, students have continued to go to the office and complain that this is not good enough. And on top of that, I can now demonstrate the Russell lecture face. Now, of course, upon releasing this video, we are expecting uproar, we are expecting controversy. We know that, unfortunately, when we release this, they already don't like us, and we don't like them, and therefore the war, very much like the Camden Drill War, will continue with bloodshed and violence. But not to worry, because the reason that they want to take this video down isn't because for no good reason. The reason they want us to take it down is because it exposes the truth. And the truth of the matter is, this is not good enough. Nor is it good enough, it is pathetic. Every element of this course and everyone who runs it is pathetic. And I will sit here and I will say that. I suppose what needs to be learned here is, There are very important flaws with this course that for many years have not been addressed, and it is time to address them. Not for me, because thank the Lord I'll be leaving this vicinity, but for the next people who come along and take up, because these issues have been going on for a very long time and people are refusing to address them. And hopefully with this magnificent video that we've created, we've not only addressed the issues, but we've rivaled the people in charge. And that's the main thing, because they hate that, because they want to be in charge, they want to run it their way. It doesn't work. It clearly doesn't work. Not only the people this course attracts is one thing, the people who run it, though, sadly, are the other thing and the greater problem. So from me, the presenter, sort yourself out and sort this goddamn course out, man, because, oh, it is a mess. A complete mess. Wishing you all the best. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope it's been an enlightening and important experience for you as a future student here. All jokes aside though, fuck me. £40,000 I'll never be getting back. Fuck you to this building, I've had enough, and fuck everyone who runs it. Thank you.